Why settle for outdated networking tools when you can level up your game for free? Welcome back. If you're on a networking journey, whether you're a beginner or preparing for some certification like CCNA or CCNP, you know how crucial the modern tools are, especially the simulators for practicing your labs to give you that hands-on experience. That's why I'm thrilled to introduce the Cisco Modeling Labs 2.8. CML, as they launch their free version, their powerful Cisco Modeling Labs with a limit of 5 nodes, of course. In this video, I'll show you how CML can improve your networking experience and what you need to get started. So let's dive in and explore this game-changing upgrade from Packet Tracer that we all have been using for years now. So let's get going.
Perfect. So in order to get the free CML now, this is the link you gotta go to, and each of the link will be provided in the description. So you fill up as you usually would do, your first name, last name, email address, everything. If you don't have a CCID, you can create one here, and it's free. Nothing is paid here. Once you've done all this, you hit submit with your CCID. This is basically what you get at. It says thank you for signing up, and once you signed up, within a minute or so, you basically will get an email on your email address with instructions on how to download it. Now, when you click on the download files, there are a couple of files that I want you to make sure that you download. So when you click on this, depending on if you're trying to use, in most cases, we will be using the VMware workstation. Now, if you look through the installation, the minimum version of VMware workstation that you need to use is actually 17. If you're using Fusion with a Mac, then I think it's 13. But you can look in the documentation. And again, if you go here, if you go to installation instructions, it gives you all that. So if I'm going to click on here, it basically has the installation guide. It has the user guide, it has the admin guide. So all the instructions are here, by the way. Now, once you go here, the one that you really want to do is the OVA file. So this is the file that you want to do. And then you also want this file here. So these two files is what you want to try and download. Once you downloaded them, then you basically open up on your virtual machine and you set up. Now I ran into one of the errors that I want to point out. So once you set it up, and I'll show you how to get to this point first, but the error that I was getting was once you power this thing on, I was getting a message saying the virtualization is not supported. So this is also something that you might end up getting. So there are a few things that you can do here, and I'll just point out a couple of things that you can. So give me a second here. Let's close this. And obviously, if you know or yes, in either ways, it will fail to start, right? So you definitely want to make sure that that part works. So another great article I found on fixing the same error message that I was getting. Now again, this person was trying to run something else, but the error message that he got was exactly the same. So if you go through this, it basically gives you a couple of things that you can do right now, depending on if you are Intel or you are using AMD. But obviously, CML is supposed to only work on Intel. So once you go into your Windows 11, if you have one, Windows key S, that just gets into your system information. Look at what kind of processor do you have. Once you know what processor you have, like in this case, this person was having a 9750, i7 9750. Once you have that, he's given you a link and go and search for that processor. Once you look for that processor, check that if that particular processor is actually supported. So I made sure in my case it was a different processor, but it was still supported. And then you go into the BIOS to make sure it's enabled, right? A couple other things that you can do is, and again, he's giving you same options for AMD as well. So in case you want to try and unlock even after having an AMD processor, by all means, you can go ahead. You want to disable the Hyper-V options. If you go onto your turn on Windows feature on off, you click on that, you basically uncheck these two options. And once they're unchecked, and you gotta do one more thing here is you also have something called as virtual machine platform. You gotta uncheck that as well. And then you have to kind of say, okay, it will ask you to restart. In some point, one more thing is also this is a security feature that Windows has. It's called disable memory integrity in Windows 11. So you gotta go ahead and go to core isolation, make sure that's off as well. Once it's done, then you have to restart. And again, if you're restarting, make sure you press F2, depending on what kind of device you have, or F12, and go into BIOS to make sure that a couple of settings are on, especially the Intel virtualization technology is on, and so is VTD is on. I made sure in mine that they were on, and then you hit save and you're good to go. And then I'll show you once my setup was done, it worked perfectly.
Now let's get ahead and install our files into the VMware station. So I'm going to take these two files. Again, I'm going to start with the OVF file first. I open it up and I got to give it some name, right? So I'm going to just say CML. And obviously I need to pick up a path where I'm going to be storing that file that I have. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up a file where usually in my C drive, that's kind of where I throw my all the virtual machines here. I've done that. Because the version that I have is CML 2.8, so I'm going to just call it 2-8 here and go next. Now it's importing the machine right here. It's going to take some time and it's going to go ahead and import the machine itself. Now we're kind of ready to turn it on. But before we turn it on, I want to go ahead and edit it. In the processor, I want to make sure that the virtualization part is checked. That's very important. And next thing I want to do is also want to go into the CD-ROM here, make sure its connect at power is on, use the ISO image, and this is where I'll give the ISO image that I downloaded. So remember, I downloaded two files. One of them was the ISO file. That's where you put it. In case you don't put it here, you will not see all the images in the actual file once you open up. So you won't see the routers and the switches in case you don't have that. And the next thing is I did the NAT. And I think this point I'm ready to go to turn on the machine itself. And I'm powering the machine on. And you see it's the CML shows up at this point. Now I'll just let it go through the motions where it's going to start to boot up, do its thing, I guess. But just remember, as I said, before we boot up, few things we need to make sure that we have done. Virtualization is checked. You have made sure that you are using the ISO mounted. And then the third thing is you've done the NAT. And now ready to install once we get to the CML page that you see shortly. So I'm not going to show you all this. I'm just going to cut to the next section where you see the CML screen and we'll start to configure the machine from there on. So now we are here at the CML. So let's go ahead and accept it. You can use the tab button here to make sure that accept comes on. Continue, continue. So you can read through that if you like, but I'm just going to say that continue for now. Nothing interesting there. You can set up a unique name if you like, if you want to. I haven't bothered with putting up a special name because it's just a name. So we'll just hit continue and go on from here. Next thing, you want to put a system admin password here. Need to have 8 characteristics, 1 capital and a special letter. Now this is where it lets you log into the actual Ubuntu system. So make sure you remember these passwords, whatever passwords you're setting up here. Once you've done that, you can go ahead and continue. It's still saying that you need to be very strong password. Now it's local, just testing, so I didn't bother. This is the password that you're going to use to actually log into the browser when you go into the CML. So I'm just using the same password here again. Just make sure they match. 8 characters minimum, capital, special. Continue again. Saying no, not strong enough. That's okay. I'm going to let it go. I'm going to use DHCP, and again, the NAT is going to give me a DHCP here. And then I confirm that these are my settings once I have them here, and it's going to start setting up the machine once more. So we can let it go through the motions here. I'm not going to try and show you whole thing here, so I'll kind of skim through the next section once it's ready to be configured. The first forward here, it's almost there. Once this finishes, then we are ready to kind of go ahead and log into our machine here. So we'll get into that next. So once it's done, I can hit OK here. And it's just telling me the system is not configured. You just need to point it out. Now, interesting part here is once you log in, when you see this, I have to look at what IP address they give me. So in my case, I'm getting a 192.168.136.132, which is through a NAT. In case you don't get this IP address, you have to reboot your machine to make sure you get one. I open the browser and I go ahead and make sure that I put the IP address 192.168.136.132. That's what the machine assigned me. Go to advanced, save to proceed. That's just a message. Go admin, and the password, that's the password that we set up there. Once you're into the CML with the credentials, it's telling you that you can opt in for some webinars, some trainings if you like to. So that's up to you. Also, something to note is on the right side bottom, it shows you that it's a free tier, which is 5 nodes only. If you want to get more, then you have to get a personal license, which is about $200 per year, and more if you like to, which gives you up to 20. And once I start to add, it gives me like a little walkthrough of how can I get the nodes in this case, and few more things that's going to show you. I feel the best option is to get your hands dirty here. So just start to throw some devices on there and you can start working on it, right? That's, I would say, the best option to learn. Now, this is where you'll see all the nodes that are available to you. You see routers, there is a firewall, there's a couple of switches there, endpoints, Ubuntu desktop. So let's start to drag and drop like a switch here. So I'll maybe drop a couple of them in this case here. So let's go ahead and drop those and maybe add another one. How about that? Let's go ahead and put another one there. And now you have kind of started to build the topology. Now, how about adding some endpoints here as well, like a desktop here in this case. So I can again drag and drop this way. Now I have drag and drop. Now in order to connect, right click, add a link, and that's it. And just tells you which interface you're going to use to connect. And that's about it. So let's do a few of them here, make some connections to build a topology. One more thing that is interesting in here, what they've done is if you click on the link and if it lets you add it, that means there are interfaces available. If you see a red link, that means there are no interfaces on that device where you're trying to add an extra link. So that's a good feature, I feel. Now, once you click on the switch, you have the capabilities of renaming it. So you can name it like switch 1 and make sure to click on that check mark there so that it saves it. I decided not to, so it's just not going to change the name for now. How about we go ahead and start the switch over here? So I can right click and I do get an option to start the switch. So I click and it starts the switch at this point. So once you click on that, it started. Now, next thing I want to do is I want to console in. So I click on the console in and on the bottom, you see it says an option open console. Click on that. You're in the switch right now. So once you click on the switch and you do usual stuff. So let's start some configuration here. First thing I'm going to do is put the enable commands en and then the config t so that I'm in the switch. Once I'm in the switch, then I can make some changes if I wish to. Now let me just try to run some show commands. So show version, or either I would say do show version. That will just give me the version of the switch. And that tells me the version of the switch. And the version I have in this case is 17.15.1. So I would see that there. And I can run some more commands if I want, right? Usually this is your switch. This is similar to sitting in front of the switch and consoling in, correct? Let's say if I want to start the whole lab. So I can go on the lab, I can start all devices. That will just start all the devices. Now I'm getting an error message saying that the license is not allowing me to more than have 5 nodes because you see 4 here, but then I had another labs going where I had more than them. So if you notice here, I have a few labs going here and in which I have more devices going on. So you can have multiple labs. That's not an issue. The only thing is at one given time, you can only have 5 nodes to be started, which means is I can have multiple labs. Maybe one is my spanning tree lab, one is my OSPF lab, and I can have them created all. But it's just that I can't have more than 5 nodes turned on at the same time. If I reach a point where I think I need more than 5 nodes, that's where you look at the license option and you go ahead and upgrade to a professional license, which gives you a 20 nodes instead of 5 nodes here. And when you click on the tools here, that's kind of where you see the option at the bottom, which is your licensing. And then you also have the documentation. So don't forget the documentation. And then you have the licensing, obviously, that gives you the license to upgrade your lab that I just mentioned about. Now you know why CML is a must-have for anybody who's serious about networking. You've seen how it brings modern devices and advanced features right at your fingertips, all for free. So what's stopping you from taking your networking skills to the next level? Well, thanks for watching. And if you found this video useful, smash that like button and share it with your fellow networking friends. Now, don't forget to subscribe for more insight tutorials and the latest in the networking tech. Now, leave your thoughts and questions in the comments below. I can't wait to hear from you. Until next time, keep learning. Happy networking. Bye for now.